Yes. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome. And let's start off with the Charya reading. Would that be all right, Prabhu?
Sure, thank you very much. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 10, texts 1 through 4. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami, "O great and powerful saint, what was the cause of Nala Kuvaras and Mani Grivas having been cursed by Narada Muni? What did they do that was so abominable that even Narada, the great sage, became angry at them? Kindly describe this to me." Shukadev Goswami said, "O King Parikshit, because the two sons of Kuvera had been elevated to the association of Lord Shiva, of which they were very much proud, they were allowed to wander in a garden attached to Kailas Hill on the bank of the Mandakini River. Taking advantage of this, they used to drink a kind of liquor called Varuni. Accompanied by women singing after them, they would wander in that garden of flowers, their eyes always rolling in intoxication. Within the waters of the Mandakini Ganges, which were crowded with gardens of lotus flowers, the two sons of Kuvera would enjoy young girls, just like two male elephants enjoying in the water with female elephants.
Go
Should
on,
I
Prabhu.
continue?
Yes.
Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This verse mentions some of the material advantages offered to persons associated with or devoted to Lord Shiva. Apart from Lord Shiva, if one is a devotee of any other demigod, one receives some material advantages. Foolish people, therefore, become devotees of demigods. This has been pointed out and criticized by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 20. Kamaistastarvita jnana prapadyante nyadevataha. Those who are not devotees of Krishna have a taste for women, wine, and so forth, and therefore they have been described as Rita Jnana, bereft of sense. People generally go to the Ganges to be purified of the effects of sinful life. But here is an example of how foolish persons enter the Ganges to become involved in sinful life. It is not that everyone becomes purified by entering the Ganges. Everything spiritual and material depends on one's mental condition.
Thank you, Prabhu. So many different points in this one. Mental condition. Also, before you give us your analysis of this, there's something interesting in the purport where Srila Prabhupada says, apart from Lord Shiva, does that indicate that Lord Shiva is different than the rest of the demigods?
Apart from Lord Shiva.
The one is a devotee.
I took that sentence to mean that although he is different than the other demigods, he's also like that he's one of the demigods in the sense that people generally approach him for material benefits. That's how I understood it. But your point also makes sense that although he's one of them, he's also distinct.
Right. That point about people approaching the demigods for materialistic things. Prabhupada said, I was listening to a lecture this morning, and he said that we come to the material world, we're just animals. An animal is not interested in self-realization or knowing who he really is. An animal thinks he's the body. So actually, we come to this material world as animals to take care of the body. So this is I thought it fit in very well with this section. Very good. Anyone else? Do you have something else to say, Prabhu?
Just that I really love that final short paragraph of the purport. Can that be pulled up again for a second? About where is it?
There you go. People generally.
Everything spiritual and material depends on one's mental condition. I really like that point.
Yeah.
That devotional service is not mechanical. That's how I'm understanding that.
Yeah. Wonderful.
we have to do the mechanics. It doesn't, I also don't agree with this, oh, it doesn't matter what you do as long as your heart is in it or
Huh.
whatever. We have to do the mechanics, but that also depends on our mental condition.
What about the concept of aganta sukriti? It completely contradicts that statement.
Really? Completely?
Yes. Aganta. Aganta means not knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Aganta
does.
sukriti means that they're doing something without, and they're getting spiritual benefit without even knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, that's
And
that's
I
a
always
good
thought that bathing in the Ganges was purifying no matter one's condition. Srila Prabhupada's pointing out here that in this particular circumstance, they were, I guess because they were being offensive, that overrode whatever purification there might be from bathing in the Ganges.
The seventh offense against the holy name,
Yes.
to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. So,
Yeah. Also, it reminds me, I think it's Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini. He differentiates between different kinds of piety. That there's karma piety, which you could get from, bathing in the Ganges, that even unknowingly you do it and you get some positive karmic results. And there's jnana type of piety that gives you knowledge and renunciation. But then there's bhakti piety, which is the topmost of all. And maybe that's what that distinction might be applicable here, that if to really get the bhakti benefit, ultimately it takes, awareness and consciousness and intent.
There's one more point I wanted to bring out before we go on. It's an interesting concept. When Sukadev Goswami explained to Maharaj Parikshit that the trees were there because they had been cursed by Narada, here we see Parikshit inquiring, what did they do that was so abominable that even Narada, a great sage, became angry at them? This will be brought up later on throughout the whole story, throughout the whole narration. Was he really angry at them? Because the initial thought of someone who is cursing someone else is that they became angry and therefore cursed someone else. But we'll see actually that that wasn't the situation. So let's go on and find out why.
Mandatara, would you like to read?
Hey, sorry about that pause. May I make a comment based on the
Sure,
last?
please. Yes.
I thought we read before. I can't remember, so I can't look it up. If it's the first canto, where it is described that Lord Shiva is actually 75% of like
85.
Krishna, or something like that. Yeah,
84 or something.
like maybe there was some distinction. Like he's definitely not a jiva like us, but he is more like Vishnu, but less.
Good.
I don't know.
Do
He's in a special
know?
category.
Do you know who in Chaitanya Leela is the potency of Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva? Who is that?
I don't know.
Anyone know?
And who's
My
Leela?
understanding is Advaita Acharya,
Yeah.
that he's both Mahavishnu
Advaita.
and Lord Shiva
Very
at the
good.
same time, which
Good.
is kind of mind-boggling. How it can
Yeah.
be.
Well, it is. Tell me something about this philosophy which isn't mind-boggling.
Exactly.
Inconceivable. The word that we love most. Inconceivable.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Actually, before,
that's
since you brought it up, let's go down that mind that vein for a second. Lord Shiva is the medium. That energy is the medium through which the Supreme Lord, who's completely transcendental to this world, interacts with and in it. How does matter and spirit function together? We're in this body, and we're a complete spirit soul, completely different from this body, not in any way affected by it. But yet it's intricate enough and insulated and connected with it so that it appears alive and functioning and appears to be the self. Similarly, with the entire universe, the entire material creation, it appears like reality. It functions so perfectly under the direction of Lord Shiva and his wife Parvati. So, and in the pure sense of the Panchatattva, Sadashiva, who's also transcendental to this world and lives between the material creation and Vaikuntha in Shiva Loka, when he advents and then brought the Lord, one of the main points of that Leela is that everything in this world can be spiritualized. Otherwise, they wouldn't come here and function. They're not in any way tainted by their activities here. So they come and show how to live in complete spiritual freedom, even in the material world. It's an important point.
Yukta Vairagya.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on. Mamataji.
Text 5 through 7. O Maharaj Pradikit, by some auspicious opportunity for the two boys, the great saint Devarshi Narada once appeared there by chance. Seeing them intoxicated with rolling eyes, he could understand their situation. Upon seeing Narada, the naked young girls of the demigods were very much ashamed. Afraid of being cursed, they covered their bodies with their garments. But the two sons of Kuvera did not do so. Instead, not caring about Narada, they remained naked. Seeing the two sons of the demigods naked and intoxicated by opulence and false prestige, Devarshi Narada, in order to show them special mercy, desired to give them a special curse. Thus he spoke as follows.
Go on.
Srila Prabhupada's purport. Wherever Narada Muni goes, any moment at which he appears is understood to be extremely auspicious. Narada appeared in the garden to give the two sons of Kuvera the seed of devotional service, even though they were intoxicated. Saintly persons know how to bestow mercy upon the fallen souls. Although in the beginning Narada Muni appeared very angry and cursed them, at the end the two demigods, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, were able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, face to face. Thus the curse was ultimately auspicious and brilliant. One has to judge what kind of curse Narada placed upon them. Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur gives herein a good example. When a father finds his child deeply asleep, but the child has to take some medicine to cure some disease, the father pinches the child so that the child will get up and take the medicine. In a similar way, Narada Muni cursed Nalakuvara and Manigriva in order to cure their disease of material blindness.
Okay, I have a question for you. It says in the purport, saintly persons know how to bestow mercy. Can you elaborate on that? On the Torah?
Yes, Prabhupada also said that the spiritual person is like a physician, knows exactly what to prescribe, how to prescribe it. And even though two people may have similar problems, grossly speaking, the physician knows exactly what medicine to give one person versus another person to cure that material disease. So just like the same thing, Narada Muni, a spiritual person, can figure out what is that disease and cure them of their spiritual, so that they can find their divine self.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful. Do you have something else to say about this, what you've read?
Only just to say that I'm asking, did that garden that they went to, can it be likened unto like an ashram for Lord Shiva? I mean, it seems like they were really being offensive. I mean, it's kind of like lewd and lascivious behavior in like a church or something. You know what I mean? Comparatively speaking, would you call that a temple of Lord Shiva back in that day? I don't know.
Anyone?
They certainly were allowed to be there, but it sounds like it was selective people that can go there, like not just anyone can go
You
there.
have to qualify. You have to qualify.
Yeah,
Just
you
like
know what I mean?
going to the
And
heavenly planets, one must be qualified. Prabhupada gives the example of going to any country. You have to get the passport and the visa, and you have to qualify to do certain things. It's not just everyone open the doors, everyone can go in. You know,
right,
so there are some qualifications to go to the planets of the demigods. What to speak of Lord Shiva's residence, which is because Lord Shiva is the greatest of all yogis. You could call it an ashram, but it certainly is a temple situation, I think.
right.
Anyone else?
I was
Anyone?
just curious.
No, that's a good point.
I,
Do you want to?
yeah, I would think it's more like a celestial gardens. And the offense of Manigriva and Nalakovara was not that they were enjoying with women. That's the nature of celestial environments and atmospheres. But the offense was that they didn't pay attention to him, Narada Muni, when he arrived. They were intoxicated and didn't really care for his presence. But in the heavenly planets, intimate association between men and women is allowed. It's part of the natural behavior of that kingdom. As we'll read as we progress through this story, one has to perform great pious activities. We just read about how ignorant people want to enjoy in this material world, and they perform great sacrifices, austerities, and penances in order to attain enjoyment. And the material energy and the Lord also benedict them with that opportunity. So it doesn't describe in any way that they were offensive to an ashram, like Manvantari gave the example of being in a church. I think that they were more or less in a celestial environment that they were used to. They were the sons of the demigod, the treasurer of the demigods, treasurer of the universe. So they're very opulent lifestyle. But their offense was that they were lewd and not paying attention and not acting with proper etiquette when Narada arrived.
Also inappropriate behavior for
Yes.
that particular place. You said that this kind of intimacy between male and female in the heavenly planet, certainly that's there everywhere in the material world, but there's a certain discreetness. That's why they get to go to the heavenly planets, because they've qualified themselves beyond basic animal instincts.
Nice.
You know,
There's another point too here. Let me bring up the that point that Manvantara said here, that saintly persons know how to bestow mercy upon the fallen souls. Has anybody ever heard about the time that Srila Prabhupada went to the commune and several devotees to be at that commune were naked when they came forward to meet Srila Prabhupada? But rather than, so it's not just a stamped reaction, like Narada cursed them because they were naked, so therefore these people that come before a saintly person should be cursed. No, Srila Prabhupada dealt with them totally different. And I think Premananda wrote a nice forum in this week's talking about how Narada Muni preached to Magrari the hunter, and how Srila Prabhupada dealt with devotees that smoked. He told them, you step outside before, don't smoke in the temple. So nice point, Sama, that there's time and circumstance for proper activity.
Sharia?
Yeah, thank you. A favorite example of mine from Narada Muni's preaching about how innovative and how flexible he was is when he was preaching to Dhruva Maharaj. That his first preaching was, you're a young boy, don't be attached to the kingdom, just go home, like this. And Dhruva Maharaj said, your instructions don't, interest me, don't touch my heart. And so Narada Muni, he sort of, reframed his preaching. He said, okay, then you create an image of the Lord, you worship like this, you chant this mantra. So he was able to he took one tact and then he adjusted. He took another tact. So I always like that about that particular pastime.
Important point. Good, thank you.
Yeah, the Acharya knows how to preach according to time and circumstance. Nice. Okay, let's go on. And Malini, would you like to read? Thank you, Mamatarji.
Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 10, Text 8. Narada Muni said, among all the attraction of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features, taking birth in an aristocratic family, and being learned. When one is uneducated, but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages his wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Among the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, people are certainly conducted by the lower qualities, namely passion and ignorance, and especially by passion. Conducted by the mode of passion, one becomes more and more involved in material existence. Therefore, human life is meant for subduing the modes of passion and ignorance and advancing in a mode of goodness. In a mode of passion, when one is falsely proud of wealth, one engages his wealth only for three things, namely wine, women, and gambling. We can actually see, especially in this age, that those who have unnecessary riches simply try to enjoy these three things. In Western civilization, these three things are very prominent because of an unnecessary increase of wealth. Narada Muni considered all this in the case of Manigriva and Nalakuvara because he found in them so much pride in the wealth of their father, Kuvera.
Oh,
Now,
nice purport. Okay, human life is meant for subduing passion. What can you start off by telling us about that?
well, that's interesting because human life is, mainly under that mode, like in goodness, you're on heavenly planets, and then lower, you're in a lower species of life. So passion is kind of, by definition, the human level. And at the same time, because passion leads us to, like, it described in the Bhagavad Gita that it's like desire, constant, like a burning anchoring, constant burning anchoring. It leads us to burn ourselves and to degrade ourselves from passion to the mode of ignorance, like Manigriva and Nalakuvara. They are so wealthy because their father is wealthy. And then they come to a place, they are so intoxicated that they are forgetting any etiquettes to pay attention to a sage, like Narada Muni passing by, because they are so covered by ignorance. So in human life, we born in that passion, and it's with passion we can go down in ignorance, and by subduing the passion, we have a chance to rise to the mode of goodness. Of course, the mode of goodness is a better platform for spiritual realization. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. And anything else? Anyone
Can anybody give examples? Prabhupada says here, in Western civilization, these three things are very prominent because of an unnecessary increase of wealth. How does that manifest?
I want to respond because I came here from Gita Nagari. So Gita Nagari is like Pennsylvania, and it's very like, conservative. And then one of the first thing I saw coming here is on a highway, we bear all. And then Florida is a lot wealthier than Pennsylvania in general. There is more, like there is a villages or people with a lot of money coming from everywhere. And then it's all so much about, we bear all, women, sex, gambling, and intoxication. Anyway, this is one thing that's like really impacted me when I arrived in Florida, where there is so much wealth, more than, in Pennsylvania, Mifflintown. Yeah.
Patti, did you want to say something else?
If anybody else, I was thinking, recently we had some work done on the house. And one of the men that was working was talking about how on the weekend, he's going to Tampa, going to a concert. He and his wife are going together. So it looks like in modern society, it seems like they've made it appear like such innocent behavior. We're going down to go to the concert, but obviously they're going to go to the restaurant. They're going to have dinner. They're going to have drinks before they go. Who knows if he's the type that gets intoxicated at the concerts. Generally, there's different kinds of intoxicants there. They make gambling so easy. They even have state-funded lotteries, but they make it appear innocent. That's my main point. They make it appear like it's normal, natural behavior. You go ahead and you do it. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy this, that, or the other thing. So it's important to. I was impressed this week. Grateful to be in the association of Narada Muni, who revitalized and opened eyes that had been opened previously, but helped me meditate more on that and see it more clearly, even in our everyday life.
Thank you. Chaita?
Hare Krishna, good morning, dear devotees. One symptom of this unnecessary increase of wealth is ingratitude. If you don't have a car, then you really appreciate whatever vehicle you can get, even if it's an old thing that has problems. But you appreciate it and you say, thank goodness I have a car, I can get around. But if you are rich, you have 3 or 4 cars, and in each one you say, oh, well, this car has this problem and that problem, and I don't really want to go in that car today. And so much, how do you say, there's also, with the ingratitude, there's so much unnecessary maintenance that goes on with wealth. And it's consuming. It consumes your consciousness, taking care of all these cars, for instance. So it's really costly. It makes you unhappy and it makes you worried.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on so that we can find some solutions to this horrible problem about having too much money. Okay. Madhurya, are you there to read? Madhurya Leela? I thought I saw her name. Yes,
I am.
yes.
Hi,
Hare
Bill.
Krishna. Can you read?
Srimad Bhagavatam 10:10-9. Unable to control their senses, rascals who are falsely proud of their riches or their birth in aristocratic families are so cruel that to maintain their perishable bodies, which they think will never grow old or die, they kill poor animals without mercy. Sometimes they kill animals merely to enjoy an excursion. Purport, Prabhupada's purport. When the modes of passion and ignorance increase in human society, giving rise to unnecessary economic development, the result is that people become involved with wine, women, and gambling. Then, being mad, they maintain big slaughterhouses or occasionally go on pleasure excursions to kill animals. Forgetting that, however, one may try to maintain the body is subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Such foolish rascals engage in sinful activities one after another. Being duskritis, they completely forget the existence of the Supreme Controller, who is sitting within the core of everyone's heart. That Supreme Controller is observing every bit of one's activity, and he rewards or punishes everyone by giving one a suitable body made by material nature. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. In this way, simple persons automatically receive punishment in different types of bodies. The root cause of this punishment is that when one unnecessarily accumulates wealth, one becomes more and more degraded, not knowing that his wealth will be finished with his next birth.
Oh my goodness. Well, what about sometimes they kill animals merely on an excursion, merely for their own pleasure.
Yeah, that's Prabhupada says that it's okay for Kshatriyas who are practicing to be Kshatriyas, the kings, and they're giving protection, but not just for excursions. Just like with Parikshit Maharaj when he saw, Kali trying to kill the cows and the bull, he got very angry. So, and people don't realize that Prabhupada says for every hair that's on the body of the cow, and I imagine that it goes for all other animals too, that they have to suffer that many births for every killing and go through the suffering.
Most people aren't aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Prabhupada always encourages us to help, to make people aware of their fate, which can actually be wiped out as soon as you surrender to Krishna.
But another thing that people do is, I think it's to accommodate their desires of not having to follow very strictly. They'll become maybe Christians or some other religion where they're allowed to do a lot of these things, and then they don't have to feel guilty about it. But the reaction is still there.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I was listening to in this lecture this morning, Prabhupada was talking about Chanakya Pandit, who was saying, just beg, borrow, or steal, get ghee. And he said, this doesn't really apply to the Western countries because they are such meat eaters. They don't care about ghee. So just to see the situation that is happening in this world based on animal killing, based on wealth and animal killing. It's abominable. We have to do what we can to help others and help ourselves to go back to Godhead, remove ourselves from this dreadful association of the material world. Okay, anyone else have something to say about this? This is for me, this was a particular heart-wrenching verse and report.
Just one point, because it's being recorded. It wasn't Chanakya Pandit, it was Chavan Muni. Actually, there are six different kinds of philosophies. And one of those philosophies is his. Chanakya Pandit was more of a politician. That's actually a type of philosophy that we're meant to enjoy. So beg, borrow, or steal and do anything, it doesn't matter.
That was, oh, I see. Sorry. I heard it wrong. Acharya?
Yeah, just a technicality that Charvak Muni, he's actually outside of the Saddarshan, the six
oh, is he really?
philosophies. Yeah, because he's considered Gnostic. He's considered the godless or irreligious. So he's outside the six of whatever it is.
Of the six theistic philosophies.
Yeah, so he's considered one of the atheistic, so he's outside that.
Thank you.
That's true. Hare Krishna. Okay, Nanda, would you like to read for us? Can you?
I can try.
Good.
Okay. Am I coming through?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Well, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:10, verses 10 to 12. While living, one may be proud of one's body, thinking oneself a very big man, minister, president, or even demigod. But whatever one may be, after death, this body will turn either into worms, into stool, or into ashes. If one kills poor animals to satisfy the temporary whims of this body, one does not know that he will suffer in his next birth. For such a sinful miscreant must go to hell and suffer the results of his actions. While alive, does this body belong to its employer, to the self, to the father, the mother, or the mother's father? Does it belong to the person who takes it away by force, to the slave master who purchases it, or to the sons who burn it in the fire? Or if the body is not burned, does it belong to the dogs that eat it? Among the many possible claimants, who is the rightful claimant? Not to ascertain this, but instead to maintain the body by sinful activities is not good. This body, after all, is produced by the unmanifested nature and again annihilated and merged into the natural elements. Therefore, it is the common property of everyone. Under the circumstances, who but a rascal claims this property as his own while maintaining it, and while maintaining it, commits such simple activities as killing animals just to satisfy his whims? Unless one is a rascal, one cannot commit such sinful activities.
Go on reading.
Purport. In this verse, the three words kim vid basma are significant. After death, can you just read the next three words? Because I'm on my phone. I can't read the next three words. After death, the
Body
body may
may become creamy.
thank you, creamy, which means worms. For if the body is disposed of without cremation, you guys, I can't, because it's on my phone and I can't.
I see. Okay, we'll have someone else read. We'll have someone else read, Ananda,
Sorry.
and then we can go on to that. Chaitanya, would you like to read this?
Hare Krishna, Dandava Pranam. Okay, so I'll take it from the second para or the top.
Just the top, because
Okay.
that was
Srila Prabhupada's purport. In this verse, the three words krimi vit bhasma are significant. After death, the body may become krimi, which means worms. Or if the body is disposed of without cremation, it may be eaten by worms. Or else it may be eaten by animals like hogs and vultures and be turned into stool. Those who are more civilized burn the dead body, and thus it becomes ashes. Bhasma samyitam. Yet, although the body will be turned into worms, stool, or ashes, foolish persons, just to maintain it, commit many sinful activities. This is certainly regrettable. The human form of body is actually meant for jivasya tattva jignas, enlightenment in knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, one must seek shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Who is a guru? A guru is one who has full transcendental knowledge. Unless one approaches a spiritual master, one remains in ignorance. One has full knowledge about life when one is acharya van, controlled by the acharya. But when one is conducted by rajogun and tamogun, one does not care about anything. Instead, one acts like an ordinary foolish animal, risking his life and therefore continuing to go through suffering after suffering. Such a foolish person does not know how to elevate himself in this body. Instead, he indulges in sinful activities and goes deeper and deeper into hellish life. The body is a manifestation of a combination of matter. In the beginning, it was nothing, but by a combination of matter, it has come into existence. Then again, when the combination is dismantled, the body will no longer exist. In the beginning, it was nothing, and in the end, it will be nothing. Why then should one commit sinful activities when it is manifested? It is not possible for anyone to do this unless he is rascal number one.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada is very direct.
Wow.
So, what do you think of this krimi vid basma? What do you think, Chaitanya?
I think we're so covered with ignorance, it just doesn't occur to us. It just doesn't occur to us that this thing is going to come to an end. And we're so covered, we think we have all the time in the world. So let's enjoy ourselves. This is, I was saying, this is the common mantra. Oh, be sure you enjoy yourself. Enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend. And it's instead we should be saying, guess what? This could be your final day. What are you going to do with your time?
The whole concept of enjoy yourself with this material world. It's very bizarre. Nanda, thank you, Chaitanya. We'll come back to you in a sec. Nandaji?
I heard a story recently that really for me brought it very illuminated much more, that phrase, the unseen force of karma. And it was a story from the Mahabharata. It was after the battle of Kurukshetra, after all of Dhritarashtra's sons were killed and he lost his kingdom. He approached Vyasadeva and he asked, why couldn't at least one of my sons remain alive? And Vyasadeva told him that 100 births previously, Dhritarashtra was a Kshatriya, came upon a bird's nest that had 100 eggs in it. And somehow or other, I don't remember the details, but he destroyed the whole bird's nest, all the eggs. And so he said, that's why you had to suffer. He said, but why 100 births ago? Vyasadeva said, because you didn't have enough pious credits to have 100 sons. So you had to accumulate enough credits to get 100 sons. And then your previous karma from 100 births before came into play. And that just really brought it a lot more clear, you know. We're not here, nothing we're going through is by chance, and everything that we do is having another reaction for future entanglement, even pious or impious. And it's just like, whoa.
And also the 100 sons didn't have the best birth. I mean, the way he got the 100 sons was a little bit, interesting, at least, right? Where Gandhari punched her belly, and then 100, and because Yudhisthira was born first out of Kunti's womb, so she was so upset, she punched her belly, and then 100. The whole embryo turned into 100 little pieces, and they put them in jars, and the boys were born out of 100 jars. I mean, this is it's beyond my achintya. This is inconceivable. But thank you, encouraging us to know that, we're not free at every moment, any moment in our life. We're held responsible for everything that we do at any time. The only way out is Krishna. We're very much involved in the spider's web. Hare Krishna. Okay, anyone else?
Malini has her hand raised.
Malini, yeah, tell us something.
Well, I'm curious about, in a verse, it says a body belongs to everyone, or something like that. And I'm curious how we can apply that, or what does that mean? I think it makes sense. It's all made of the material energy, all made of, like.
Well, there are examples given. There's examples in the purport who the body belongs to. Right?
I think
in a verse 2, there is when at the end it belongs to the fire or to stool, or it can belong to the owner, and it's unclear. It's just
that's in the next.
Say to everyone, to everyone. So to imagine that my body, how to apply that. My body is okay. This body, this gross body, that subtle body. Really, it's not mine. Prabhupada sometimes say even we are renting.
That's the main point, Malini.
Yeah.
That's the main point. And the question being raised by the logic in this section is that if you don't own it, imagine what you're sacrificing for something that's not even yours, and how much you'll suffer in the future because of the way you've mistreated it. So he's given so many examples because actually the body is not ours. We're temporarily in it. If it was ours, we could stay in it if we desired. Just like an apartment or a home or something, if it's owned by somebody else and you're there and you have a landlord, if that landlord, of course, there's laws and things, but if ultimately the landlord says, you must leave, then, time, when God says it's time to leave, it's time to leave. So he's using the argument in a logical way, saying that if you don't own it and you're still willing to perform this kind of activity that will bring you so much misery in the future, then you're not very intelligent.
Yeah.
Ian,
And-
Ian, let's hear from Ian. He has a comment on this, and then we'll go back. He hasn't been.
Yes. Yes, Hare Krishna, everybody. Am I being heard clearly? Or is the sound?
Yes. Very
you're
good.
good.
Okay, so just I was thinking, so much effort we put into keeping our bodies, so sorry. Sometimes we try to keep it younger, you get old and you try to use all kinds of stuff to make the body look, young forever, and so forth. But also the other things that you do, try to get degrees, to get families, all sort of stuff. But when you look at the end, it's going to be one of three. You either be buried, burnt, or eaten by animals. So you want to say there's so much stuff I'm going through, and it doesn't belong to me. Also, I'm saying that sorry, a person's rich, but when the person dies, is there any value to the body? I don't think so. Maybe you could give it to charity, but when a person dies, all that you had before, your wealth, your family, all that's gone. So we waste so much time in so putting so much effort and sacrifice and doing a lot of stuff that I wonder, yeah, it doesn't value anything. As it says, you were nothing before, and at the end, it's nothing. Yes. So that gave me some food for thought. Yes.
Very good.
Important.
Thank you.
That's important. Energy that we put into keeping the body, but no. At the end, as I said, one of three: burned, buried, or eaten by worms. So,
Hare Krishna, the fate of the body. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
No, Malini, did you want to say something, Angel? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to share something I noted this morning in my reading. It's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I think it connects because I meditated on it. One should see that because of the meeting of material nature and the living entity, the universe is acting uniformly. So that uniformly, I think, connect with, it doesn't belong to us. And it belongs to everyone. It's not like the fact that it belongs to everyone. That's what I was noticing on the verse. Not so much that it doesn't belong to us. Thus, one should neither praise nor criticize the characteristic or activities of others. And I guess it's true for us. We shouldn't praise or criticize the characteristic or activities of ourselves, because
But
yeah,
if you're going to, if you will have a choice between praising the activities of others or criticizing the activities of others, best you praise.
yeah,
Best you praise.
that's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in that
Yeah.
specific pastimes. That's what it says.
Yes.
Like okay, praising is not that bad, but criticizing, but at the same time, the concept that I'm not looking at praising but the concept that what are we praising? If we praise someone's quality, we are just praising, the result of karma that came together as atoms to create something that's ephemeral anyway. And same thing if we criticize. So that's yeah.
Still we're in these human bodies and we have feelings, and we don't want to be impersonal because everyone is going through this horrendous world. And we want to encourage others. We want to encourage others to go through it and get out of it. So sometimes you have to speak sweetly and praise the positive activities of others so that will be encouraged to give up the bodily concept of life. I find that it's helpful. You can use that in preaching. you know?
Yeah, of course. I'm not discussing not praising. I'm just discussing that verse.
The concept.
The concept in that
Yeah.
verse that's really come to a place of like the insignificance of the body in themselves. Either they are full of qualities or full of defect, but how insignificant they are, and their significance really come true when everything is used in devotional service.
Good.
And then all the quality, even the shortcoming become useful for making advancement in spiritual life. Yeah.
That's perfect vision of Yukta Vairagya. Do I have time to just read this one from the Mukunda Malastotra?
Sure.
That is always quoted by Srila Prabhupada in relation to the worms and the stool and what the body is actually composed of. One should give up the false identification with a material body which is made of 5 material elements and has hundreds of joints which will wear out. One day this body will fall dead, with the result that it will be turned into ashes or an insect's stool. At that time, everyone will see the body as despicable. Therefore, it is unwise to have attachment for this body. O mind, hear my truthful words. The powerful medicine to cure this material disease is to continually drink the nectar of Krishna's name. So now we got the cure, so we won't have to deal with this ever again. Krishna's so kind. He just, as soon as you start chanting his name and as soon as you surrender to him, everything, goes. You get a much milder treatment. Okay, let's go on. Ian, why don't you I'm sorry, Pati. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, it's worth noting that at this point, the narration slightly changes. Up till now, it's been describing Narada's vision and explanation of how wealth is such a detriment. So note the change as it comes in the next text.
Ian, why don't you read for us?
Okay, 10, 13 to 14. Atheistic fools and rascals who are very much proud of wealth fail to see things as they are. Therefore, returning them to poverty is a proper ointment for the eyes so that they may see things as they are. At least a poverty-stricken man can realize how painful poverty is, and therefore he will not want others to be in a painful condition like his own. By seeing their faces, one whose body has been pricked by pins can understand the pain of others who are pin-pricked. Realizing that this pain is the same for everyone, he does not want others to suffer in this way. But one who has never been pricked by pins cannot understand this pain. Srila Prabhupada's purport: even today, if a man who was formerly poverty-stricken gets money, he is inclined to utilize his money to perform many philanthropic activities, like opening schools for uneducated men and hospitals for the diseased. Living entities are promoted and degraded by laws of nature, but if one is very, very fortunate by association with saintly persons, he gets the seed of devotional service and his life becomes successful. Narada Muni wanted to bring Nala, Kubara, and Manigriv to the platform of devotional service through poverty, and thus he cursed them. Such is the mercy of a Vaishnava. Unless one is brought to the Vaishnava platform, one cannot be a good man. Hare Krishna.
Wow. Okay, well, what do you think of this? But first, tell me this last sentence. Unless one is brought to the Vaishnava platform, one cannot be a good man.
Okay, so we know the potency of a Vaishnava pure devotee. Okay, they said just a moment's association with a pure devotee can, relieve one of our material suffering. That's one. So it's important. And as it says, you specify, unless one becomes in contact with a Vaishnava, which is a devotee of Lord Vishnu. So that specifies, tell us who is a very important person to come in contact with.
Anything
If I could
else?
see the text again, I could probably quickly make a comment. Okay, so it refers to somebody feeling pain. So if somebody who felt pain, it's a pinpricked, and you see somebody pinpricked, then you could be, you realize, yes, you're pinpricked, so you have an idea what it feels like. And so it becomes important for those who are fortunate to understand the importance of engaging in devotional service, to try and encourage others to come up to that platform too. The devotional service. Yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the pinprick goes, I was thinking in terms of animals crying and identifying, and how we can identify with the pain of an animal and understand that they're living creatures and they do suffer. And this would, as Prabhupada said, you don't want to see someone else suffer, but to speak of human, even an animal suffer, which this whole civilization denies completely, not seeing that there's a soul in the animal. Nanda, did you want to say something? Please say something.
Sorry, no, it's a phone problem. Sorry.
Oh, okay, sweetie. But
yeah, just a quick. Yeah, if I may.
Yes, please.
So it also mentioned somebody who was poverty stricken and got some wealth, and he wanted to share it with others. Yeah, so we're saying that we, in terms of being fortunate, saying that we've been attracted to the Krishna, reviving our Dharma and Krishna consciousness. So realize, yes, it's like they say in the gospel, you get some good news, you don't keep to yourself. So we're saying that when you look at not only the person who poverty stricken but and got some wealth, but here we are been suffering the material world for so many billions of lifetime. We realize get a chance to come to the cycle. So we are concerned so that we can encourage others to get their consciousness purified. Just like that, just like we were encouraged to. So depth of yes. That's
wonderful. Wonderful mentality. That's why Prabhupada came and suffered all the being on the ship, being in the Jaladuta, and all the things that he went through. If Prabhupada didn't do that, what would happen to us? We were speaking before of how we have to really encourage people to understand that the whole movement is based on Prabhupada and his teachings, and we have to try to institute that, by understanding his teachings ourselves. And as you said, Ian, very magnanimously give this knowledge to others. Okay, shall we go on now?
Malini's hand is raised.
Oh, Malini, I'm sorry, darling.
I wanted to hear from Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu the expansion about what's a shift? Because you say, okay, now we are going to see a shift between the verse before and the verse now. So I like to hear
the
more.
Shift.
Yeah.
The shift is here. Therefore, returning them to poverty. In other words, he's explained what the downfall and pitfalls of being wealthy are. And now he's changing to explaining what he's doing. He's not angry. He's actually benedicting them to bring them to a more proper position, which also links down here. Unless one is brought to the Vaishnava platform, one cannot be a good man, because ultimately the remedies and circumstances people have to try and alleviate the sufferings of other people in this material world will prove futile. They may temporarily help one another, but ultimately, this was the first question of the sages of Naimisharanya. They asked, what is the ultimate good for all people? Hum same kantata shrehas. What is the shrehas? What is the ultimate good? And then we got into the discussions back then between prayas and shreyas. Prayas is an immediate alleviation, an immediate help, an immediate result, whereas shreyas is the long-term result. So here we see that Narada Muni, being a self-realized person, understands what the ultimate benefit for Manigriva and Nalakuvara is, and that is to awaken their Krishna consciousness. So he's described the pitfalls and the bad mentality that they've cultivated due to celestial wealth. And now he's saying returning them to poverty is the actual remedy for their problem. And we'll read more about it now.
Good. Well, thank you. That's wonderful. Faye, would you like to read? Are you able to read today? Faye?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Happy
Krishna.
Mother's Day, Mataji. I will try. I will try.
Yes, good.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10, Canto, Chapter 10, verses 15 through 16. A poverty-stricken man must automatically undergo austerities and penances because he does not have the wealth to possess anything. Thus his false prestige is vanquished. Always in need of food, shelter, and clothing, he must be satisfied with what is obtained by the mercy of Providence. Undergoing such compulsory austerities is good for him because this purifies him and completely frees him from false ego. Always hungry, longing for sufficient food, a poverty-stricken man gradually becomes weaker and weaker. Having no extra potency, his senses are automatically pacified. A poverty-stricken man, therefore, is unable to perform harmful, envious activities. In other words, such a man automatically gains the results of the austerities and penances adopted voluntarily by saintly persons. Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, wait, Faye, just a second. Before you read the purport, could you go back, Pati, for 1 second to the verse? Read again this last line of the text, and everyone meditate on that while we're reading the purport. Read the last line, in other words.
In other words, such a man automatically gains the results of the austerities and penances adopted voluntarily by saintly persons.
Right, go on.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A saintly person voluntarily accepts the state of poverty just to become free from material false prestige. Many great kings left their princely standard of living and went to the forest to practice austerity according to Vedic culture, just to become purified. But if one who cannot voluntarily accept such austerity is put into a situation of poverty, he automatically must practice austerity. Austerity is good for everyone because it frees one from material conditions. Therefore, if one is very much proud of his material position, putting him into poverty is the best way to rectify his foolishness. Daridrita doso guna rasa nasi. When a person is poverty-stricken, naturally his false pride in aristocracy, wealth, education, and beauty is smashed. Thus corrected, he is in the right position for liberation. The real business of human life is to keep oneself fit for advancement in spiritual realization. Human life is not meant for making the senses unnecessarily strong so that one suffers from disease and one increases in an envious fighting spirit. In this age of Kali, however, Human civilization is so misled that people are unnecessarily increasing in economic development. And as a result, they are opening more and more slaughterhouses, liquor shops, and brothels. In this way, the whole civilization is being spoiled.
Oh my goodness. So please tell us your understanding of this faith.
If I go back to Prabhu Ian's post on wealth, and also go back to something from Sri Ishwapanasad, we have a quota of what is given. And that quota, we already have in place. Everything we have already comes from Krishna, correct?
Mhm.
And as we go through life in the human form, the whole purpose of our human form is to cultivate spiritual realization. Some of us are slow learners. Sometimes God can teach us in another way. Perhaps if we are, being slapped on the hand, it is a harsh lesson. But if it is a harsh lesson that is required to get our attention, then it's a good thing, because Krishna woke us up to see what he wanted us to do, to realize the suffering of others. If we also go back to the verses about a sage having equal vision, seeing the super soul within all living creatures, I think if we realize that all life in the material world, as well as all life in the spiritual world, comes from Krishna, is part of Krishna, is part of that everlasting cycle of things, who are we to criticize or to kill or to harm anyone that has that part of Krishna in it or in himself? In the animal condition, which we are in the material world, we eat, we sleep, we mate, we defend. But only in the human form do we have the opportunity for God realization.
Right, very good.
So the ropes of guna, the ropes of ignorance and passion and goodness, they're here. They bind us. They keep us comfortably numb. Only when we are uncomfortably numb do we start to think of the suffering of others. Only when we are uncomfortably numb do we see that a lot of our suffering comes from our own mind and body. A lot of our suffering comes from the actions and activities of others around us. And often what we have is more catastrophic karma, such as a tsunami that wipes out everyone in the wrong place
Yeah.
at the wrong time.
But we see ultimately.
Ultimately, always, everything is Krishna's plan. Everything. Everything. Even if I cannot see it in front of my own myopic eyes, everything happens for his reasons, at his pace, and his time.
Okay, and we know it's best for us, right?
Yes,
It's always best for us.
yes.
Good for you, sweetie. It sounds like you're realizing that. Very good. And thank you so much, Faye. I'm glad to see that you're participating now
Thank you.
again, and hope you feel better. Anyone else want to say something before we go on?
Acharya's hand is raised.
Oh, Acharya, sorry.
Hare
Please.
Krishna. I was just noticing that the standard of poverty that is being presented in this verse is quite a pretty intense level of poverty. Like I think I'm poor, and if you look at government statistics, I'm probably hovering right around the official poverty line. But I'm sitting in front of a laptop computer. I've got a refrigerator full of food.
Right.
I've got a car with half a tank of gas in it. So I'm not really poverty stricken by the standard that's being presented in this verse, which is real intense poverty. of not having enough to eat, not having enough basic necessities. So I don't know, it's a little frightening to me. Will I have to be presented with that kind of poverty to learn my lesson, or will I be smart enough to learn it by hearing about it? But I just wanted to point that out, that that kind of poverty is very intense.
I thought, 1 second, Faye. The point that really struck me was that a poor man forced to experience these kinds of austerities, those are the austerities that saintly people take upon themselves to free themselves from attachment to this world. So rather than fearing any situation that Krishna will put us in, and being grateful, of course, being grateful for whatever situation we're in now, because it could be on a physical platform much worse. This is where using everything for Krishna and not using wealth in the wrong way. We can, with this knowledge that we're being presented by Srila Prabhupada, by the Acharyas, by the Bhagavatam, this saves us from having to go back down through the species. Because that was a very potent point. Saintly people take on upon themselves the austerities of poverty, which people, just like Sanatana Goswami and the blanket. He goes down to the river, and because Lord Chaitanya looked at his blanket and said, whoa, you're already renounced. What are you doing with that? So he goes down to the river and he sees this poor mendicant washing his ripped, disgusting quilt. And Sanatan had this gorgeous blanket. And he said, do me a favor, please give me your ripped quilt, I'll give you this beautiful blanket. And the mendicant is, don't chide me, sir, I'm a poor man. No, I'm serious. So then we see the graphic example. One poor man practicing austerities, getting purified, and another wealthy man giving up his wealth to come to the same platform of purification from the material world. Of course, Sanatana Goswami is setting an example. But I thought that's a good graphic example of this situation. Malini.
Yeah, I really like that point. Like in a sense, involuntary austerities also get the result of voluntary austerities. And it's like so merciful of the Lord to do that. And every year when we read this pastime during Kartik, I enjoy the glorification of poverty. And in a Catholic church, I don't know so much Christianity, but in the Catholic church, there is nuns and priests and in monastery who make a vow of poverty, and they make that vow of poverty to make advancement towards serving Lord Jesus Christ. So it's so powerful. Yeah, it's so powerful, and there is something really attractive about poverty.
Right. It's better
I'm
to be in the situation in relation to what Acharya was saying. It's better to be in the situation where you voluntarily give up your wealth to become poverty stricken rather than forced to be in it. Sometimes you have more realizations.
Yeah. At the same time, there is places where Srila Prabhupada, I cannot, probably one of your scholar people here could direct us, but there is places where Srila Prabhupada say, yes, in order to start spiritual life, in order to practice spiritual life, one needs to be having a minimum of comfort. That if one is like on a level of always looking for food and things like that it's kind of an impediment towards spiritual life. There is places where that is described too.
Okay, I think we have to go on now. Faye, did you want to say something real quick?
Yes, thank you for bringing up the story of the blanket. That was the one that occurred to me this week.
Yeah.
Back to Ian's point, Ian mentioned the Gospel of Luke, and another point that was in the lectures of, again, Become a Mouse, and also the Gospel of Luke. one of the things that happened in that particular chapter in the Bible, Jesus was approached by a young man who wanted and expressed interest in a spiritual life and wanted to follow. And the first thing that Jesus said to him was, well, you need to give everything. And the young man couldn't. And tying back into what Prabhu Ian was saying, wealth is such a destructive influence and distraction that if we have too much of an abundance of things, we get caught up in this distraction and we forget about God. In essence, if we have what we need to exist and still have the comforts of being able to think about God, then we're tracking in the footsteps of the acharyas nicely.
Yes, very good. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. That's a good point.
Let's
Okay.
move on, son.
Yeah, okay. Acharyaji, would you like to read this? And I think we're going to have to go on with no conversations for a little bit, because we get caught up in all the nectar. Let's go on.
Okay, Canto 10, Chapter 10, 17 and 18. Saintly persons may freely associate with those who are poverty-stricken, but not with those who are rich. A poverty-stricken man, by association with saintly persons, very soon becomes uninterested in material desires, and the dirty things within the core of his heart are cleansed away. Saintly persons, sadhus, think of Krishna 24 hours a day. They have no other interest. Why should people neglect the association of such exalted spiritual personalities and try to associate with materialists taking shelter of non-devotees, most of whom are proud and rich? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A poor man receives sadhus very quickly, offers them obeisances, and tries to take advantage of their presence, whereas a rich man keeps a big dog at his door so that no one can enter his house. He posts a sign saying, "Beware of dog," and avoids the association of saintly persons, whereas a poor man keeps his door open for them and thus benefits by their association more than a rich man does. Because Narada Muni in his previous life was the poverty-stricken son of a maidservant, he got the association of saintly persons and later became the exalted Narada Muni. This was his actual experience. Therefore, he is now comparing the position of a poor man with that of a rich man.
Why don't you go on, Acharya?
Purport. Material life means that one forgets Krishna and that one increases in one's desires for sense gratification. But if one receives the advantage of instructions from saintly persons and forgets the importance of material desires, one is automatically purified. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhava mahadavadni nirvapanam. Sikshashtaka text 1. Unless the core of a materialistic person's heart is purified, he cannot get rid of the pangs of bhava mahadavadni, the blazing fire of material existence. A sadhu is surida sarvadehinam, the friend of everyone. Why then should the rich, instead of associating with sadhus, waste their valuable time in associating with other rich men who are averse to spiritual life? Both the poor man and the rich man can take advantage of the Krishna consciousness movement, and here it is advised that everyone do so. There is no profit in avoiding the association of the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, maybe. If we give up the association of sadhus, saintly persons engaged in Krishna consciousness, and associate with persons seeking sense gratification and accumulate wealth for this purpose, our life is spoiled. The word asat refers to Avaishnavas, who are one who is not a devotee of Krishna, and Sat refers to a Vaishnava, Krishna's devotee. One should always seek the association of Vaishnavas and not spoil one's life by mixing with a Vaishnavas.
You know, we have to go on, but I tell you, we can talk about this, and we should talk about this all the time. It's so encouraging and so wonderful. But I think we have to go on now. Thank you, Acharya. Mamantara, why don't you read this? Let's wait for Mamantara to set up.
Text 22. Therefore, since these two persons, drunk with the liquor named Varuni or Madhavi, and unable to control their senses, have been blinded by the pride of celestial opulence, and have become attached to women, I shall relieve them of their false prestige. These two young men, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, are by fortune the sons of the great demigod Kuvera. But because of false prestige and madness after drinking liquor, they are so fallen that they are naked, but cannot understand that they are. Therefore, because they are living like trees, for trees are naked but are not conscious, these two young men should receive the bodies of trees. This will be proper punishment. Nonetheless, after they become trees, and until they are released, by my mercy, they will have remembrance of their past sinful activities. Moreover, by my special favor, after the expiry of 100 years by the measurement of the demigods, they will be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, face to face, and thus revive their real positions as devotees.
Okay, go on, Mamantara.
Purport. When a sadhu chastises or punishes someone, he does not do so for revenge. Maharaj Parikshit had inquired why Narada Muni was subject to such a spirit of revenge, tamaha. But this was not tamaha, for Narada Muni, in full knowledge of what was for the good of the two brothers, wisely thought of how to cure them. Vaishnavas are good physicians. They know how to protect a person from material disease. Thus, they are never in tamu guna. A tree has no consciousness. When cut, it feels no pain. But Narada Muni wanted the consciousness of Nalakuvara and Manigriva to continue, so that even after being released from the life of trees, they would not forget the circumstances under which they had been punished. Therefore, to bestow upon them the special favor, Narada Muni arranged things in such a way that after being released, they would be able to see Krishna in Vrindavan and thus revive their dormant bhakti. Each day of the demigods in the upper planetary system equals 6 months of our measurement. Although the demigods in the upper planetary systems are attached to material enjoyment, they are all devotees. Therefore, they are called demigods. These two kinds of persons, namely the devas and the asuras forget their relationship with Krishna. Asuram bhavam asrita, whereas the devas do not forget.
Okay, let's just go to this last part of the purport. Madhurya Leela, would you like to read?
Okay.
Madhurya, okay. Thank you,
The
Mamantara.
distinction-
We'll discuss this after. Go on.
The distinction between a pure devotee and a karma mishra devotee is this. A pure devotee does not desire anything for material enjoyment, whereas a mixed devotee becomes a devotee to become a first-class enjoyer of this material world. By karma mishra bhakti, one is elevated to the celestial kingdom. By jnana mishra bhakti, one is able to merge in the Brahman effulgence, and by yoga mishra bhakti, one is able to realize the omnipotency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But pure bhakti does not depend on karma, jnana, or yoga, for it simply consists of loving affairs. The liberation of the bhakta, therefore, which is called not just mukti, but vimukti, surpasses the 5 other kinds of liberation, sayuja, sarupya, salokya, sharsti, and samipya. A pure devotee always engages in pure service. Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Taking birth in the upper planetary system as a demigod is a chance to become further purified devotee and go back home, back to Godhead. Narada Muni, let's see. Narada Muni indirectly gave Manigriva and Nalakuvera the greatest opportunity by his so-called curse. So, you know, this thing came up in the class, I think it was yesterday that Mukunda, the Prabhu from Vrindavan, gave class. If you could put it back there, he was talking about a devotee can go up to the heavenly planets by doing whatever, by even doing jnana and jnana and yoga bhaktis, but they're not going to go back to Godhead.
That's true.
And he said Prabhupada didn't want to say that because he didn't want to discourage the devotees. Does anybody remember what he exactly said in class?
Don't remember.
Okay, well, anyway, it was interesting. Came up in the discussion afterwards as well.
What was the main point that he was making?
Like by doing these jnana bhakti and karma bhakti and all that, it's bhakti, but it doesn't. You can't go back up to Godhead. You can go up to the higher upper planetary systems, and enjoy there, but it's not going to take you back, and because it's mixed. And then he said something about Prabhupada didn't say tell us exactly that because he was quoting from a commentary. He was quoting from a commentary.
But
Prabhupada told us.
It's almost like he's saying that Prabhupada didn't tell us that we should not perform Mishra Bhakti. That Prabhupada never advocated performing Mishra Bhakti. I don't understand the point you're making.
Okay, well, I'll have to go listen to it again.
Okay, yeah. So it's Mukunda Dat in Vrindavan yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's an interesting point being brought up in this whole section that, especially this part of the purport, where pure devotional service. There's a nice commentary on this verse. Anukulyena Krishna Anu Shilam Bhakti Uttama. It's basically the definition of pure devotional service is that one performs activities which are pleasing to Krishna. Krishnanu Silanam. And in the purports of that verse, it was pointed out that the verb of any sentence realizes or expresses the motive of the performer. So the verb in this particular definition of pure devotional service is Krishnanu Silanam. One acts for the pleasure of Krishna. Whereas a karma mishra bhakti means that one's performing some bhakti, but with a desire that's mixed for enjoyment, or with a desire that's mixed with a desire for knowledge, jnana mishra bhakti, or yoga mishra bhakti, to understand the omnipotency of the Lord. So it's behooves each individual to try to fine-tune our sentiments, catch ourselves when we're in those circumstances, and try to act properly or for the pleasure of Krishna, and thus and when love develops, then that naturally happens.
Also as far as Prabhupada not saying something because he didn't want to discourage us, everything is in Prabhupada's books, and sometimes in a material way. If you think materially, just like we were discussing about poverty and Acharya mentioned, it's a very discouraging thing, the material world, that we're in this situation. So Prabhupada's going to the root of the problem, and this is what he came to give, the absolute truth. He's not making it, he's not covering it. He's speaking frankly and purely.
Yeah, he was quoting from one of the commentaries. I can't remember who, my memory's so bad. But this is not Mukunda Datta Pujari. It's the other one, Prabhupada's disciple, Mukunda.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
in
Mukunda
Alachua.
That's his name also. He's from Dallas.
Oh.
But he lives in
Sorry.
Vrindavan now.
He lives in Vrindavan and preaches a lot in South India.
Hmm.
Anyway, we keep sending Prabhupada's books, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll
Prabhupada
listen to
doesn't
that
dis-
part again and let you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Maybe put it on the
That's good.
forums and the,
Yeah, do that.
so that everyone will
Yeah, I'm
know.
not sure how to. Okay, well, yes.
But, if you want, if it's too much, don't worry. Okay, so anyone else have something to add?
Malini's hand is raised.
Oh, Malini, sorry.
I
can't
don't
see
have
the
I don't have the reference, but I heard in conversation that Srila Prabhupada was lamenting that he could see that a lot of his disciples are acting in a way that will lead them to end up in a heavenly planet. There was a conversation
Yes.
that, like,
It's a famous conversation.
yeah.
He said, most of my
so,
disciples
you know,
will go. Yeah.
we can see that, like Dhruva
Yes.
Maharaj, Prabhu, I really, really like that point. It's like constantly we keep pull those weeds of you know, karma and jnana and yoga. Constantly, it seems that it's endless. There's always more weeds of those type. Even when we think we do something to please Krishna, at the end it's like, do I want to avoid pain or enjoy in some ways or get some knowledge? Or it's just endless, it seems. But that comment is very connected with what it seems.
You know, that this whole discussion about poverty and, you know, the suffering that we have to go through in this world, this is supposed to help us to become free from the desire for staying here. And I mean, we get pounded. You know, how can we, isn't it the resilience of the conditioned soul is like amazing. You get pounded so much, still we want to enjoy. It's absurd. It's totally absurd. So, Chaita.
Haribol, just going back to text 19, there is a phrase that really jumped out at me. Narada Muni speaking, he says, I shall relieve them of their false prestige. It's so sweet, and we don't think of false prestige and being an illusion as being a weight that we're carrying. He said, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Now
Yeah. Okay. It's so wonderful. I shall relieve them. It's true, as Manvantara brought up, that Vaishnavas are good physicians.
yeah.
They're healing. His whole attitude, he's not vindictive.
Yeah.
Narada Muni is not vindictive.
No.
He just wants the best for everybody. He wants to
you know,
relieve. Very sweet.
We have to take the medicine, though. We have to take it. And because that's that crucial point of, do I really want it? You know, when someone is suffering so bad, he just wants relief. We have to really be determined. This is not a light thing. We want the best. We have to work for it. Acharyaji.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention that, going back a verse, that I really liked how in the purport Prabhupada described that Narada Muni's own personal experience, that he was actually really poverty stricken, and because of that he got the mercy of the sadhus. So he's using that remembrance of his own life, his own experience, in order to, you know, curse bless these two. So I just really enjoyed how Prabhupada brought that up from Narada Muni's own history.
Now that you can enjoy. that you can totally enjoy. Very nice. Thank you. All right. Anyone else have something?
Is Chitamai's hand still raised, or was that from before?
Oh, Ian has something.
Haribol, just can someone define the word vimukti for me?
There's several kinds of mukti, and the ones that are being described in these verses and throughout this part is that rather than Swarupya, Shashti, Swamipya, and Swarupya, those kinds of liberation, they're going back to be lovers of Krishna, and therefore it's a special kind of mukti, vimukti. Mother Yasoda attained vimukti. That was described in the previous
intimate.
chapter.
So intimate loving exchange, vimukti,
Yes.
bhakti yoga. In other words, bhakti
Yes.
yoga. Bhakti yoga.
Okay, thank you so much.
Ian?
Always to your service.
Yes, quickly. With so much, in terms of wealth, for example, as I made a post, wealth is one of those formative assets. So with so much discouragement in just accumulating wealth, and it says also there's a reason why the Satan person goes to the home of a poverty-stricken person, because a poverty-stricken person don't be hoping, and usually a certain person goes to give some sort of spiritual nourishment. But they say on the other hand, the rich person do not disturb, or but we have dogs.
Yeah.
So it would be so nice if when you're growing up, we are sort of trained to see the essence of not so absorbing the wealth. We can notice, for example, if when you get old, it's so hard to say, hey, you're so attached when you're old, you accumulate so much things over the years. And for example, when some people are dying, they want to extend their lives. So, it's interesting that wealth, we're so much attracted to wealth, but there's someone negative saying, hey, be careful. The wealth, of all the material assets, wealth seems to be the one that give us a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
It's amazing, and everybody wants it. Everybody
Yes.
wants the problems of wealth. Everybody wants it. And just see how if we go out and preach this philosophy to people, and we tell them all the drawbacks of wealth, the people, there you go. Here you go. Who wants to, Pati, you want to read that?
I see if I'm
Yeah, among all the
Yeah.
attractions.
among all the attractions of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features, taking birth in an aristocratic family, and being learned. When one is uneducated but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages his wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. But among all the different attractions, this pride of being wealthy is very intoxicating, extremely so.
And that's why you see that the devotees, a lot of them are not real wealthy. Most
Right.
devotees are also barely,
Simple
probably on
living,
the poverty line.
simple living, high thinking. They're
Simple
spending that
living, high
energy
thinking,
focused differently.
So that's what Prabhupada's teaching. We have to get rid of that desire for wealth, because wealth usually means I wanted to enjoy my own ridiculous bodily material desires. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. What about next week? Is Rath Yatra? Are we going to? I'm
We don't know
hoping to
yet.
go. We don't know yet, but
We'll be. I'll let everyone know through email. Because next week is the Jacksonville Rath Yatra, but we're not real sure if we're going to go all that way and do that yet.
thank you.
Thank you,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna, thank you for your amazing
Thank you, sir. One check, thank you.
Hari Hari Bolo.
Hare Krishna,
Jai.
have a good
Thank
day,
you.
everybody.
Thank you very much.
Jai Gurudev.